having to worry about it.
So the school in Fruitport, Michigan is specially designed for safety. No more lockers in the hallways, instead short lockers in a common area so teachers can see 900 students at once.
So it was designed as a curve for a couple of reasons, and one of the reasons is to cut down on the line of sight of an active shooter, God forbid that we have one.
Yeah.
And we also installed these wing walls to provide safety for students to hide behind if there's a threat down the hallway.
A grant from Michigan State Police paid for impact-resistant film on the windows and a special system to lock down specific sections of the school.
Alert, alert. Boys and girls, this is a drill. Please lock and secure your classrooms at this time. We are pretending there is an intruder coming into the office.
All right, okay, smile. All right, boys and girls, we've blocked the door. Now you should have something in your hands to defend you. There's no reason to be alarmed. I'm going to be right here to help protect you. Now we just need to sit quietly and wait for further direction. All right.
This is a bulletproof backpack. It makes people think it's cute, I'm gonna add that to my bag. Like, no, this is not a normal thing that you should have. You shouldn't feel this way while you're at school.
Ban guns, lol. That's the thing, we can't just ban guns. The thing is, I hear this all the time. Just ban guns. You have no clue what you're talking about. The gun culture is so deeply rooted in this country. The gun lobby has such a hold on power in this country. Not to mention the majority of Americans don't even want to ban guns. Even after shootings, the majority of Americans don't want to ban guns. It's just not going to work. It just doesn't it's just not going to happen. While I was setting up stream today, I was informed by Chatter that there was a school shooting in Texas. And quickly, very quickly, I did as much research as I could before stream went live. Got as many statements as I could, and got as much information about the situation as I could. Now, this is a continuously updating situation, so anything I'm saying here when it comes to the amount of people who are dead could continue to change as more people pass away. Currently, the number is 15. And since this is a continuously updating story, please do continue to do research yourself after you watch this. So, as of right now, this is the information we have. A 18-year-old gunman walked into a school in Texas, 85 miles away from San Antonio. He then shot one teacher and 14 students dead. And as of right now, the last time I checked, there is one 66-year-old still in critical condition, as well as one child. Their condition is still up in the air. Hopefully they'll make it. But I don't want to say prepare for the worst because I don't even want to think about the number getting any higher. The gunman was shot at the scene and killed. The attack took place specifically at Robb Elementary School. The killer was a U.S. citizen. And before the attack, he shot his grandmother and killed them. So, the thing that gets me about this story, specifically, is that this feels exactly like Sandy Hook. Very young man getting a firearm, killing their parents, in this instance, his grandmother, then going to an elementary school away from his home before killing a bunch of children and students of an extremely young age. So young that their bodies are probably half the size of the gun used to kill them. And that's what's so terrifying about this, is that it's early on, so we don't know if this is a copycat. We don't know if this is somebody who has no frame of reference to the school shooting whatsoever. We don't know if this is a mental health case. We don't know if this is a terror attack of some sort, even though I feel that that's probably pretty unlikely. We're still waiting for more information to come out. But I also don't know how to really react to this anymore, because as an American, like, this just keeps happening, right? Like, it's not even been that long since the Buffalo shooting, where a white nationalist went down to Buffalo and then shot 10 people dead, 13 wounded. Well, no, 3 others wounded. And this, we didn't even finish processing that, and we're already at the feet of another school shooting. And we're seeing, of course, we're waiting for more information to come out so we can figure out what caused the situation, what were the failings, what kind of response should we have to make sure this doesn't happen again. Me saying that out loud makes me feel like a child, because saying, oh, what can we do to make sure another shooting doesn't happen again? I mean, I was in 7th grade when Sandy Hook happened, 7th or 6th grade. I mean, this is just part of the course. I remember doing a school walkout against school shootings. I don't, like, there's nothing I can say really here that hasn't already been said a million times over. Now, what I can say about the Buffalo shooting is that the Buffalo shooter, there were signs. This was somebody who made a murder-suicide threat at school, and the red flag laws clearly stated that a teacher could start the process by filling out a 2-page piece of paperwork in order to get that gun taken away with them after a court order. But the teacher didn't fill out the 2 pages of paperwork to start that process. Maybe we can talk about making it mandatory for school staff, if they hear a violent threat of some sort with guns around firearms, make it mandatory at risk of losing their job that they have to fill out that paperwork. So we can make it, even if it's just an extra precaution. The judge can then look at it, and if they see it's unreasonable, then they'll stop it. That's the whole thing. You put it before a judge, and the judge checks if it's reasonable. But that process wasn't even started in the case of the Buffalo shooting. And we can always talk about these kind of small niche solutions, and that's really feels like all we can do is talk about strengthening these red flag laws, talking about strengthening background checks, because I know my European viewers will always look at me and be like, but Dylan, really, man, just get rid of the guns. And I don't know what to say to you besides no. And when I say that, I don't say that as oh, if I had the chance, could I remake America? Would I rewrite the Second Amendment to be 10 times more strict? It's just you don't understand the cultural attachment Americans have to guns and how this is not going to have an effect on it. And the most Americans can hope for is red flag laws, background checks, stuff of that sort. Stuff that is almost universally supported. More divisive gun control restrictions can really only happen in a state-by-state basis in places like New York State or places like Maryland, places like, New Jersey. But this is Texas. This is a state that is deeply seated in gun culture. That's just not going to happen there. And again, we don't even know how the person got the gun. And if the guy got the gun illegally, then there's no gun control restriction that we could have said anything about. If the guy got the gun through 3D printing, then again, there's nothing we could have really done there unless there was some symptom shown, some sign shown to school staff or to counselors or to some government official or to their parents. And then there's always this other conversation that, of course, is going to rear its head again. And that has to do with mental health, right? And that seems to always be the counter to gun control. Everybody understands that nobody wants this to be the permanent status quo in America where we just consistently live with white nationalist terror attacks and shooting up 5, 6, 7-year-olds in elementary schools. Nobody wants to live in that reality. This doesn't happen in other industrialized, civilized countries, right? But the thing is, I feel like the vast majority of the people that counter gun control, proposals, will then say, well, mental health. But then you're like, okay, so we should have a universal mental health program to make it so everybody in this country can get mental health services if they need it. And then the answer to that will be, no, I do not want that. Maybe we can make the ease of access better, because they would call that socialism. They would call that too far. And I'm saying they in a very broad sense here, and I know that's not true for everybody, but I just want to talk about this talking point. I am not against people trying to help solve this issue through dealing with mental health, right? Because anybody who would do this, unless they're a terrorist, even though terrorists are sick too, would have to probably be a very, very sick individual, sick in the head. But you can't propose mental health services as a solution in by countering gun control restrictions, and then proceed to not want to put in the funding or pass the bills that would be necessary and that are going to cost money. Because I'm sorry, if you want kids to stop getting shot in schools, you're going to have to spend some money, especially if you don't want to take everybody's guns away. You cannot dump a country full of guns to the point that it has more guns than people, which is the United States right now, and not expect them to get in the hands of some nut jobs. And so the question is, A, either we do our best to get the guns out of the hands of nut jobs by putting in stricter gun control laws, or B, we fund large-scale mental health care programs to try to make those nut jobs not go out and do terror attacks or go shoot people up. Personally, I believe in a combination of those two. I believe in making the red flag laws more universal across the entire country and stricter, so that if you have any inkling that somebody is going to go out and attack somebody with a firearm through some threat that they made, then you have to. Definitely if you're a teacher, I think they should actually put people's jobs on the line to do it, unironically. That's where I think the Buffalo shooting failed, where that person did a murder-suicide threat, said they wanted to go shoot people and kill themselves after high school, and the teacher did not fill out the 2 pieces of paperwork necessary in order to get that person's guns confiscated after a court would overlook the case. I think a combination of those factors to help battle the mental health issues people have, as well as trying to have stricter gun control laws to keep the guns out of the hands of sociopaths and psychos. I think that's really the only solution. And I know, is that going to stop all of them? Probably not. But anybody saying we're going to take the guns out of the hands of every American, you're just completely out of lockstep with America, with American culture, with what the majority of Americans want, with the long history of the Second Amendment in this country, and the fact we would have to quite literally write in a new amendment to get rid of the Second Amendment, to overrule it. I mean, it's just not going to happen. How would you want them to execute those 2 points you just mentioned? Well, like I said, something about New York law that I like about the red flag laws is specifically that a teacher can actually start the process. Not a family member, but a teacher. I want that to be across every state. But the problem that happened in New York is a teacher heard a murder-suicide threat and then did not do the paperwork, did not fill out the 2 pieces of paperwork necessary to put that before court to get the guns confiscated from the person who already had guns at that point, who already had firearms, a rifle that the kid got when he was 16. I think that's a very, very, very basic gun control measure. Of course, everybody talks about, background checks, etc., etc. Yeah, but look at this. Mandatory bulletproof onesies for students. Like, do you want to get really doomer for a second? Can we look at these school shooting proof schools? Have you guys heard about these before? These school shooting proof schools. These things are tragic.
Superintendent
Here it
Bob
is.
Shimoniak says they had no choice but to think about security when designing their new high school.
You have no idea how horribly I feel about when I think about these things, when I think about the children having to worry about it.
So the school in Fruitport, Michigan is specially designed for safety. No more lockers in the hallways, instead short lockers in a common area so teachers can see 900 students at once.
So the shape of this hallway matters.
It does. So it was designed as a curve for a couple of reasons, and one of the reasons is to cut down on the line of sight of an active shooter. God forbid that we have one.
Yeah.
And we also installed these wing walls to provide safety for students to hide behind if there's a threat down the hallway.
A grant from Michigan State Police paid for impact-resistant film on the windows and a special system to lock down specific sections of the school.
How do you lock down the school if that's needed?
So we would lock down with the push of a button. If I'm a threat and I'm here,
Yeah.
and we go into lockdown, I can't get anywhere else.
Inside class.
This is unbelievably dystopian. Like, okay, so first off, I don't blame specifically this school or this guy or the person who designed all of this. I don't blame them at all, right? I think having putting these protections in place to like help console parents or students, it's somewhat understandable. But the fact that we have schools designing, and this is not the majority of schools, it's just one instance, of course, but we have schools specifically making infrastructural decisions as they build up new schools to reflect the reality that there is a cultural trend of the United States in comparison to other countries of children getting shot up. And the thing is, the things we hear about all the time are like mass shootings where someone takes an AR-15, goes into a school, and like mows down people. And that's horrific. And that's the thing that gets the most media attention, that causes people to get these bulletproof backpacks, that causes people to make these infrastructural decisions. But that's just the kind of the tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg here. Right? So there's also another trend of gang violence in a lot of communities where people have to deal with the fact that people will take out a pistol and start shooting people in class in gang-related shootings, right? And that is also a huge issue in the United States. But it's not the issue that gets the same amount of attention, because gang-related shooting, where high schoolers are shooting as other high schoolers, isn't going to get as much attention as crazed person with AR-15 walks in and mows down 15 people, right? And it also, of course, depends on the quote-unquote high score, which these mass fucking maniacs talk about all the time. How many people die? Was there any record broken? It's disgusting. This whole and a whole industry has been built out of it, man. People are actually like selling products simply around trying to protect children in the small chance that their child gets shot up in a school. And societally, I mean, as a percentage, the amount of children that are dying from these are very low. But of course, every one of those deaths is a tragedy. But the amount of fear that is putting into children is also something that I don't think is covered enough. Because I remember, man, our school walls, and this is what I'm thinking about when it comes to this video, were so thin that if you leaned on it too hard, you could bust through the walls. And there were kids that would legitimately cry because they were scared that the walls were too thin to stop bullets, that they would get mowed down, that they would just kick down the wall and kill them all. I remember having those conversations with students. And it was wild, man. This is around the same time that we had the big school walkout after one of the other shootings. I don't even remember which shooting it was. I think it was the shooting in 2017. I think it was the one in Florida, right? Parkland? Parkland. It was the Parkland shooting. My goodness.
Classrooms, another important wing wall.
In this little area here. If, God forbid, there were an active shooter and we're back here, he can't see us.
Right. You could fit about 30 students in here, sight unseen.
When students fill these halls in January, the hope is they'll see areas for small group work, not security measures. Parents and students we spoke with are supportive.
I think it's a good thing.
I don't have to think about, like, what if a shooter came in right now? I can just focus on, like, Spanish class.
Megan Johnson helped raise the bond money for the project. Her kids are still in elementary school.
These kids have never grown up in a world without knowing about school shooting.
I mean, it kind of gives me the goosebumps thinking about it, but I mean, it's the world that they live in, and it's what they know, and hopefully we can just make it so it's not something that they have to focus on.
A generation learning in a whole new environment.
Kate, are we seeing other schools add some of these design features?
Yeah, so we've found that, yes, most schools that are being built right now are taking security into consideration, including some features for that. As a parent, I have to say this was hard to see. It's hard to process, but the goal is for children and parents to feel more secure and less fearful.
Yeah, I didn't.
God, man. We'd rather make our schools into fortresses rather than invest in mental health care and install more solid gun control measures. Absolutely fantastic. Wonderful. My goodness. But look at these bulletproof backpacks too, man. These things are wild. Also, Joe Biden is supposed to be talking today at 8:15 about the shooting. So we're gonna wait, and we're gonna watch him speak. We're gonna see if he announces anything new in response.
In response to the mass shootings happening both inside and outside of school campuses across America, we're here in Lowell, Massachusetts to meet Joe Kieran. He's the CEO and founder of a company called Bullet Blocker, and they manufacture bulletproof backpacks. And we're here to find out if this is perpetuating the hysteria around mass shootings or if this is just the reality of life in 2018.
Also, my belief is bulletproof backpacks are not necessary. I don't believe they're necessary whatsoever. There's not been one instance where a bulletproof black backpack has saved anyone's life in any school shooting. And the odds of you being in a school shooting are, again, tremendously low already. And for a lot of these bulletproof backpacks, like when we talk about the school shootings that people are actually buying these bulletproof backpacks to deal with, which are not the gang-related shootings we're talking about. We're talking about like AR-15 style, these kind of mentally crazed people who go in and start mowing people down. Like the vast majority of these bulletproof backpacks cannot stop that whatsoever, and they get so and if they could stop those types of bullets, the backpack would be so heavy that I think most students would probably not even carry it around with them. They'd probably keep it in their book. They probably keep it in their locker.
Joe Curran.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Oh, welcome. Well, this is our dealer showroom.
I could have a three-piece suit and still have a bulletproof vest on.
Right.
It's not like super heavy or even like bulky feeling.
This is we call this a bug-out vest. It's a bulletproof notebook. A lot of the parents were saying that their kids can't bring backpacks into the school. So that's why we came up with some different alternatives.
So what exactly are these backpacks capable of?
Dude, I'm sorry, but like if you go back and you look at this, that's not going to stop an AR-15 round. Not to mention, look how small that is. I'm sorry. No way. Dylan, it's bad that people make money for protecting school. Also, Dylan, $40 billion is not enough for Ukraine. Against doing drugs, I'm just going to throw this at you. You are another prime example as to why we need to continue the funding into our mental health programs. So really, I think you should be agreeing with my proposal.
Parents were saying that their kids can't bring backpacks into the school. So that's why we came up with some different alternatives.
So what exactly are these backpacks capable of stopping?
Pretty much all handguns, 44 Magnum, 357, 12-gauge shotgun.
Oh, geez.
This is for rifles. We don't manufacture it.
Oh, this is like a ceramic plate, yeah.
Exactly, right. A lot of parents were concerned about the rifles. So they were saying, oh, can you put a plate in their backpack? I said,
that's the thing.
You can't.
Right.
You know, they'd take it out because it's just so heavy.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so he even understands it. Like, how are you going to have a plate large enough to stop a rifle? Like, these are the stuff that soldiers have to carry around, right? And if you're an elementary school 7, 8-year-old who got shot up in today's shooting, like, you're not going to be able to carry around something that heavy at all times. It just doesn't make any sense.
A lot of parents were concerned about the rifles. So they were saying, oh, can you put a plate in their backpack? I said, well, you can't.
Right.
You know, they'd take it out because it's just so heavy.
Right. So this is the raw material?
That's it, yeah. So that's...
And this is it? This is
That's
all
it.
It is?
That's all it is, yeah.
What, 5?
11 layers. Yeah, 11.
11 layers?
Yeah.
Wow. That's all it takes.
That's it. That stops the bullets.
Joe may have been the first to produce bulletproof backpacks, but the trend has since gone mainstream. And while a student is more likely to face a life-threatening injury from playing sports than die in a school shooting, several other companies have popped up over the years selling all-in-one bulletproof backpacks. Interest in bulletproof backpacks spikes after every mass
like this to me, and it's going to spike again. We're going to see this spike again. To me, this is something that would seem like much more useful if you're like somewhere like I don't know, Lysychansk or Severodonetsk in Ukraine, right? But like again, like a war zone. And again, I would be talking about the stuff that could stop rifle bullets, right? That would, like, you know, like the bulletproof vest that like press guys wear, right? But like, this is not something that's going to be practical in a school setting. It just doesn't make sense. Not to mention the risk of getting shot up in a school is so low. It shouldn't be happening whatsoever, but the risk is so low that I think a lot of this is just hysteria around the shooting happening. That's the first thing. And number two, these things are not going to help you. These things are not strong enough to stop rifle rounds. It might, if it's a gang-related school shooting, it might have the small chance of stopping you. But when you look at a tiny little folder, it's not going to stop anything. It's not. I think it feels like we're trying to find every possible way to not actually fund national programs to deal with mental health and just put in more reasonable gun control measures. And trust me, I'm a pro-gun person. Absolutely pro-gun. When I come back from Ukraine, I'm going to be looking at some firearms to actually purchase for when I move into my new apartment. But for red flag laws, very basic stuff like that, nobody can really object to that unless you're quite literally just a nutter. Good for kids in the hood that usually handcuff. Well, the thing is, certain areas it might be somewhat useful, but that's not why people are purchasing these. People are purchasing these in reaction to Sandy Hook. See, look at the huge spike. Sandy Hook,
shooting that,
and Stoneman Douglas. These were not, hey, this is a gang-related shooting. These are mass attacks on children with the intention of, we just want to kill children because these people have deeply seated, insane mental issues, right? And it has nothing to do with gang-related activity whatsoever. But that's why people are buying these.
that takes place at a school, and the products are now more widely available on the internet, and you can even get them at major retailers like Office Depot.
Does the sale of bulletproof backpacks kind of contribute to the hysteria around school shootings?
No, because it's like any other tool. When fire extinguishers were invented or smoke detectors were invented, back before they were around, if a school burnt down, you know, it's horrific. The idea of having a bulletproof backpack or a bulletproof insert, whatever it is, it's just another.
But we're the only society that's doing this. That's the thing. Fires happen all across the world, right? But we're the only society in the world that's trying to address this issue that seems to be a primarily American issue.
The tool you would combat, you know, a potential, you know, horrific incident.
The thing I'm kind of thinking is, like, it seems a little far-fetched to compare a school shooting to, you know, faulty wiring.
It is, but the end results are the same. The fire extinguisher could care less about the faulty wiring, but they're there just in case.
So we've seen where the backpacks are made, and now we're gonna go meet some of the kids that they were made to protect in the first place. So what's it like being in high school and knowing that some of your classmates might have bulletproof backpacks?
The fact that some people feel compelled to have a bulletproof backpack is not surprising anymore. You know, maybe somebody would have considered that before people really started talking about gun violence, but it's not surprising.
All right, so I actually have some and I want to show them to you guys. If your parents came home with one of these, right? What is your reaction?
I'm an only child. I'm literally all my mom has. I think I'd be really, really sad because that means that she's extremely worried about my safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it shows that they've given up in some respects, that they've just accepted that it's a possible...
It's a new normal.
Yeah, exactly. It's the new normal that at any moment your school could be the one that's in the headline.
That's the thing. Again, it's not just that kids are getting shot. Kids like this, I remember me feeling the same way a lot of kids I knew. Growing up in this age, a lot of it's fear, man. Like, this is like, I remember growing up in school where they would come, I don't know, have you guys ever seen a school shooting drill in the United States and how intense they can get? Have you seen these things? School shooting drill. Let's do one quick. For fourth graders. Let's go do one for fourth graders.
This morning in our series School Matters, we take a look at something that's unfortunately become a normal part of life for so many students in this country: active shooter drills. Beverly Gardens Elementary School is right.
Let's skip. I just want to say
This
it.
is also one of a small number of schools nationwide that actively trains and arms some of its staff. Vladimir Duty happens.
Alert, alert. Boys and girls, this is a drill. Please lock and secure your classrooms at this time. We are pretending there is an intruder coming into the office. Please lock and secure your classrooms.
Okay, this is not how we did it. They didn't say we're pretending. They would say a lockdown is in effect. A lockdown. That's how they would say it for us.
All right, boys and girls, we need to lock the door. Boys, I need you to clear this table. Make sure you have something in your hand to bring with you. All right, okay, smile. Hold on, girls, sorry. Put some chairs up there. Okay, quick. All right, make sure you have something in your hands to protect yourself. All right, let's go. Asher, that's good.
You hear that? If you look at the children, they have pencils. So what they've done is they've taken the chairs and they've put them in front of the door to stop the intruder from coming in. And then they told all the children to have like scissors and pencils and pens in their hand. So if they have to fight the intruder, they can stab them.
All right, boys and girls, we've blocked the door. Now you should have something in your hands to defend you. There's no reason to be alarmed. I'm going to be right here to help protect you. Now we just need to sit quietly and wait for further direction. All right, I'm going to let the office know that we're all here and ready. All right.
So for my school, what they would do is they would, and this is even, it feels a little bit worse. So they would, of course, have us all, they would alert, we are in a lockdown. And a few times they would not even tell us in advance that it's happening today. A lot of times they wouldn't. Sometimes the teacher would let us know, like, hey, can I go to the bathroom? We got a drill in 5 minutes, just wait. And then, so the first thing they do is they turn the lights, they close the door, they lock them, they cover up the window. They have everybody be quiet as a mouse as they sit in the corner and wait. And that's how my school always did it. We didn't put the chairs in front of the door. We didn't all get pencils and pens in our hand. But this differs from school district to school district, right? Also, what they would do is they would have the teachers come up to the door, whoever is pretending to be the shooter, and they would grab the door and just go boom, 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 boom to the door, trying everything they can to open the door to make sure the doors are secure and can stop somebody who's trying to come in. So it would be like they come to the door and just bang on it as hard as physically possible. And it was pretty scary. But we didn't have the chairs, we didn't have the sharp pencil and pens, but this changes from school district to school district. And so school districts can implement policies where this is mandatory across all schools, and schools can have different policies as well. Different schools can have different policies. But yeah, like a lot of the emotional trauma that causes for children, where they believe that their school environment is actually a place of violence. It is a place where you need to be fearful. That not only affects their mental health, which is, of course, one of the concerns we have. And so there's another reason to invest in a nationwide mental health program, not only to stop the shooters from shooting, but to help the kids who have been affected by the shooting. But, one second, give me a moment. But there's also the fact that this affects people's ability to learn. And this has been shown time and time again. That if you're in an environment where you're scared of being shot or there's a lot of shootings in the area, those shootings and the fear of being killed and not feeling safe at school can actually decrease your educational outcomes. Because if you're too busy being scared of being shot it's not that shocking. You're not concentrating in math class. This is also the same when it comes to food. This is why I believe school lunches should be free, is because if you're not able to eat, if you're not able to feed yourself, then you're too hungry to actually pay attention in class. Hunger can actually be something that not only affects your development, because, a lack of nutrition can affect how your brain develops, but it also affects how much you concentrate in class, because if you're hungry, it's hard to concentrate. And so this is not only having an effect on students physically by, having them get shot. This is not only having an effect on students mentally because of the mental health of them dealing with one of these traumatic shootings or dealing with the trauma that could come with having to do the school shooting drills all the time, but it's also affecting their educational outcomes. And so even if a shooting never happens at your school shootings still affect your school, because it still makes you go through stuff like this, and it can distract you from, concentrating on school, because your parents shoving a fucking bulletproof backpack in your arms and telling you to march to school today, get a pencil in your hand in case somebody kicks in the door and shoots you. It's crazy, man. Where were we? Oh yeah, we were finishing this.
Headlines.
Do you think that the fact that they look so normal runs the risk of normalizing the violence that surrounds guns and schools and students?
There's a sunflower on my bag. This is a bulletproof backpack. It makes people think it's cute, I'm gonna add that to my bag. No, this is not a normal thing that you should have. You shouldn't feel this way while you're at school.
Would this give you the peace of mind of feeling like I'm safe?
I think they should be available to us. I don't think that they would give me complete peace of mind.
I wanted to see for myself how these backpacks actually work. So we're at On Target Firearms and Range, where owner Joe Rufiange agreed to help us test out the backpacks with 3 different guns. Each one fires a bullet with varying degrees of velocity and force. We're using a 9mm and a .44 caliber round. And even though the backpack is not rated to withstand it, we'll also test an AR-15, which shoots a smaller caliber bullet, but at a significantly higher velocity that delivers a much...
That's the thing. These backpacks are not designed to stop AR-15s, which are the type of weapons that are used in these school shootings that cause there to be a spike in the purchases of these items. And so people are a lot of times buying these bulletproof backpacks that can't even stop the bullets they were bought in order to stop.
Much more devastating amount of force. We're doing this because the AR-15 and its variants have gained wide media attention after deadly incidents like the Sandy Hook and Parkland, Mass. school shootings. The backpacks come with a Kevlar insert that is stronger than steel, but 5 to 6 times lighter, and designed to absorb the force of a bullet. The plastic fibers that make up the layers of the insert are so tightly woven that in order for the material to be penetrated, the bullet must be traveling at such high speeds it can literally push the fibers apart. The backpack was able to stop the bullets from the 9mm and the .44 caliber as marketed.
We might be able to pull this one out, actually. The 44 stopped it. Holy shit.
But the Kevlar provided almost no stopping power when the high-velocity AR-15 round went right through it.
Dude, it just went straight through it. There was no impact.
One of the 9mm rounds that we fired into the backpack right now. And I have really mixed feelings about this, because I understand we want to see if these things work, and we had to try it out. But there is something profoundly fucked up about shooting a backpack. This could happen to a child while they have it on, while they're at school. There's just something deeply disturbing about the fact that we just shot a backpack.
And the thing is, what's crazy is we're going to see a bunch of parents buying these types of backpacks again for their students right after the shooting, even though for these shootings that cause everybody to go buy these backpacks, they can't really do much, because these shootings are not being done, at least not the shootings that get attention. There are school shootings that occur with pistols, especially in neighborhoods with a lot of gun crime and gang-related activity. But these can do nothing to stop an AR. Absolutely nothing.
We shot a backpack.
Even though the vast majority of school shootings involve weapons that these backpacks are rated to stop, it's really unlikely that a student will die in a school shooting in the first place. Today, school shootings are less frequent than they were in the early 90s when student deaths were 4 times higher. But you wouldn't know it when bulletproof backpacks are trending as a back-to-school item. Risk perception consultant David Ropeek calculated that a student had roughly a 1 in 614 million chance of dying in a school shooting on any given day since the Columbine massacre in 1999. With such a low risk of dying in a school shooting, we asked him how a parent's fear may play into buying one of these products.
Well, the fear is motivating parents to want to have some control. We're much more afraid of risks when we don't have any control. We look for ways that give us a feeling of control. So putting a bulletproof backpack on your kid, which is not going to protect him, and almost everybody knows that, feels like you're doing something. That's empowerment, and that makes it feel less scary.
Is it irresponsible parenting to not buy your child a bulletproof backpack?
Every person's relationship with their own lives and their own kids and their own emotions is up for them to decide and not for me to judge.
Sure.
If it were me, and that's just me, I would be worried that the fear message of the bulletproof backpack could do more damage than the backpack could increase their safety. You put a kid in a bulletproof backpack, what are you saying to him about how safe it is to go to school?
True. Unironically, if I was like, oh, I gotta go get my bulletproof backpack before going to school, that's gonna make my school feel more like a war zone than a learning environment, which then emphasizes the mental strain put on the student instead of dealing with the issue without putting the mental strain on the student, which should be our goal, which is, again, comes back, gun control reform, mental health care. There we go. We're back to square one again.
And that message gets burned into their psyche and does way more damage, I would suggest, than the likelihood of them being shot.
How do you respond to the criticism then that this is kind of missing the mark when it comes to the conversations being had around gun control?
Well, it's a different thing. We're not selling a solution to gun violence. That's a complete different conversation. All we can do is, take care of the ones that we love and the one that's around us.
Are you aware of any instance when someone had to make use of one of these products?
Yeah, we've heard a few of those, a bunch of those stories. But in terms of actually getting shot with a bullet, no. Thank God we haven't.
Wait, so nobody's used it to stop a bullet? Then what has it been used to help? Whatever.
Well, I kind of think when you initially think bulletproof backpack, it does sound reactionary and paranoid. But then when you think just for a second longer, you realize, well, schools are dangerous places now, and the paths to and from school are also dangerous. So maybe it's the right move for me, maybe it's the right move for my friends. I'm glad this was developed. I'm glad, I hope it will save lives. But these backpacks don't need to be developed in other countries. You don't see other developed nations, their students wearing bulletproof backpacks.
What we're asking is preventing.
There's enough. Let's see what the news is saying.
Imagined in the wake of that massacre there in Buffalo. The White House sent out a statement while the president was traveling. The press secretary tweeted it. She says that the president's prayers are with the families impacted by this awful event. But Terry, the reality is we are talking about President Biden, the president of the United States, having to address the nation over a horrific mass shooting twice in the matter of the span of a week. And for more times than you and I or any of us who cover this city could possibly count, we are now looking at this administration, lawmakers on Capitol Hill facing this question once again: when will enough be enough? We are 10 years, nearly 10 years since the massacre at Sandy Hook. And as you know, Terry, we have covered this for so long. Gun control still remains stalled on Capitol Hill.
It does. It's an American plague, an American sickness. Thank you very much, Cecilia Vega, at the White House for us. And tonight, speaking on the Senate floor, Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, who has fought for gun reform in Congress since the Sandy Hook massacre of little children in 2012, he asked a question many Americans may be thinking about right now.
Why do you go through all the hassle of getting this job, of putting yourself in a position of authority, if your answer is that as this slaughter increases, as our kids run for their lives, we do nothing? What are we doing? Why are you here? If not to solve a problem as existential as this. This isn't inevitable. These kids weren't unlucky. This only happens in this country and nowhere else. Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day.
We will continue to track the latest in this horrific shooting tonight, but we are going to turn to the other major news.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Where I feel like people talk about, and that's the thing. That is the main thing that keeps getting hit on, is where people are like, well, you know, this is the reality we live in. This isn't a reality in other countries. And so when people tell me that this is an unsolvable issue, I have to call BS, because if other countries don't have the issue, right, and it's an issue that our country has to deal with on a consistent basis, then obviously it is something that could be solved. I know it's hard to get around the cultural barriers around gun control. I understand that it is difficult to get the people who are saying mental health care to actually pass a law to give universal mental health care. Ban guns, lol. That's the thing. We can't just ban guns. The thing is, I hear this all the time. Just ban guns. You have no clue what you're talking about. The gun culture is so deeply rooted in this country. The gun lobby has such a hold on power in this country. Not to mention, the majority of Americans don't even want to ban guns. Even after shootings, the majority of Americans don't want to ban guns. It's just not going to work. It just doesn't. It's just not going to happen. And so that's why we need to look more carefully on, like, what can we do when it comes to red flag laws, specifically in schools, and empowering teachers to take guns out of the hands of students they think might be of risk. Awaiting the traditional "no way to prevent this" says only nation where this regularly happens Onion article. Oh my god. That is... Did they already... Is that already been published? Because that's actually very extremely on point. Oh my god. Biden speaking? Okay. Somebody send it over. Somebody send it over. Biden. Okay, there we go. White House.
Is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit.
Okay, let's start from the start, okay?
Good evening, fellow Americans. I had hoped when I became president I would not have to do this again. Another massacre, Uvalde, Texas, an elementary school. Beautiful, innocent, second, third, fourth graders. And how many scores of little children who witness what happened see their friends die as if they're on a battlefield, for God's sake. They'll live with it the rest of their lives. There's a lot we don't know yet. There's a lot we do know. The parents who will never see their child again, never have them jump in bed and cuddle with them. Parents will never be the same. To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. There's a hollowness in your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it and never going to be able to get out. Suffocating. It's never quite the same. It's a feeling shared by the siblings and the grandparents and the family members and the community that's left behind. Scripture says, Jill and I have talked about this in different contexts, in other contexts. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. So many crushed spirits. So tonight, I ask the nation to pray for them. Give the parents and siblings the strength in the darkness they feel right now. As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done? It's been 3,448 days, 10 years since I stood up at a high school in Connecticut.
You're right, Chad. I
Grade
forgot
school in
that Jill was a
Connecticut,
teacher.
where another gunman massacred 26 people, including 20 first graders at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Since then, there have been over 900 incidents of gunfires reported on school grounds. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Santa Fe High School in Texas. Oxford High School in Michigan. The list goes on, and the list grows when it includes mass shootings at places like movie theaters, houses of worship, as we saw just 10 days ago at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. I am sick and tired of it. We have to act. And don't tell me we can't have an impact on this carnage. I spent my career as a senator and a vice president working to pass common sense gun laws. We can and won't prevent every tragedy, but we know they work and have positive impact. When we passed the assault weapons ban, mass shootings went down. When the law expired, mass shootings tripled. The idea that an 18-year-old kid can walk into a gun store and buy 2 assault weapons is just wrong. What in God's name do you need an assault weapon for except to kill someone? Deer aren't running through the forest with Kevlar vests on, for God's sake. It's just sick. And the gun manufacturers have spent 2 decades aggressively marketing assault weapons, which make them the most and largest profit. For God's sake, we have to have the courage to stand up to the industry. Here's what else I know. Most Americans support common sense laws, common sense gun laws. I just got off a trip from Asia, meeting with Asian leaders. And I learned of this while I was on the aircraft. And what struck me on that 17-hour flight, what struck me was these kinds of mass shootings rarely happen anywhere else in the world. Why? They have mental health problems. They have domestic disputes in other countries. They have people who are lost. But these kinds of mass shootings never happen with the kind of frequency they happen in America. Why? Why are we willing to live with this carnage? Why do we keep letting this happen? Where in God's name is our backbone to have the courage to deal with it and stand up to the lobbies? It's time to turn this pain into action for every parent, for every citizen in this country. We have to make it clear to every elected official in this country, it's time to act. It's time for those who obstruct or delay or block the common sense gun laws. We need to let you know.
Okay, I'm pausing this. I'm sorry. Chat is so unbelievably toxic. I don't even know. I might have to start purging people. Okay? I like disagreement in my chat. Okay, first things first. This was a shooting. Okay? A mass shooting. People are dead. 15 to 18 to 20-something kids are dead. Okay? Not fun. Very bad. Okay? I think everybody agrees with that. Right? Now, you can be like, wow, Biden's making it political. He's taking something that was caused in society by problems with society, and he wants to do a political solution to solve said issue. I can't believe he's politicizing said tragedy. If a school bus went off a fucking cliff and every kid in that school bus died because they weren't wearing seatbelts, and I came out and said, damn, that's horrific. Let's get seatbelts for these kids so they don't die again. No one would say, wow, you're politicizing this tragedy. I can't believe you, Dylan. That's disgusting. I'm offering a political solution. The difference is it's with guns, and you like guns, and so it's bad. Because he might make it more difficult for psychopaths to get guns. And apparently, there's a lot of fucking psychopaths in my chat, okay? Can't give the mothers a week? You're not the representative of the mother, you fucking whore. You're not the representative of the mothers. You don't speak on their behalf, you dumb cunt. Fuck you. I'm doing my best here, okay, to calm down. But stop, okay? You're not their speaker. You're not their representative.
That we will not forget. We can do so much more. We have to do more. Our prayer tonight was those parents lying in bed and trying.
Okay, and by the way, let's go to the Sandy Hook parents. Do you want to ask their position on what Biden's here is saying? Because the vast majority of the Sandy Hook parents are staunch gun control advocates. Just saying.
Trying to figure out, will I be able to sleep again? What do I say to my other children? What happens tomorrow? May God bless the loss of innocent life on this sad day. And may the Lord be near the brokenhearted and save those crushed in spirit, because they're going to need a lot of help and a lot of our prayers. God love you.
Okay, so it was an okay speech. He didn't announce anything. I doubt he had anything ready. This thing just, it's a tragedy, just popped out of the air. I do want to say that, how do I say this? That I don't like the argument of, what do you need this gun for? It's just to kill people, right? Because the answer to that is, well, that's what all guns are for, right? Guns are a tool. A tool to do what? To accomplish a purpose. What's the purpose? To shoot somebody. To kill them, or disable them, or hurt them, or to like intimidate them from doing something to you. Like that's what guns do, right? Guns are to preserve life. Yeah, okay, sure. Right? Guns are either being used to kill something, or hurt something, or deter something. These are like the three uses of a gun, okay? The majority of guns will never be fired. For example, most guns sent over in like weapons aid and stuff like that will never be fired, because and this is a great book for this. I have a great book for this. It's called Arms and Influence. I recommend you guys read it. It's from Thomas C. Schelling, and it talks in detail about how most guns are not actually even used for like war and conquest. They're mostly used for negotiations as leverage. But that's not what we're talking about in this context. We're not talking about foreign policy. So guns are either used to scare somebody away, like get off my property, right? Or they're used to disable somebody or kill somebody, right? So I don't like it when somebody says, what do you need this gun for? To kill people. Like, yeah, but this is the same thing with pistols, right? That's with all guns. I guess like the thing would be, why do you need this specific gun to accomplish a purpose? That would be the argument, right? What did Ben Shapiro have to say? The Texas shooter violated a multiplicity of gun laws. The suggestion that more gun laws would have prevented this act of unspeakable evil is unsupported, and the implication that those who oppose such laws are somehow in favor of mass shootings is morally reprehensible. We don't know all the details of the shooting yet, so we don't know if what laws he violated or the exact details. But if that's true, that he violated gun laws, and that's why this happened, and then I think that's when the other angle to this happens, right? Which is mental health care. The thing is, and I guess maybe I'm a cuck when it comes to this, my solution to and it's not a solution, it's what my only idea I have, is we do put in more reasonable gun control measures. But we also do the mental health care program. We actually sponsor mental health care programs across the country, because it seems that the counterance to always any gun control programs is, well, these guys are going to find a way to get guns anyway, and then they're going to do these crimes because they're insane. So that's why we need to talk about mental health care. But then you ask some people, okay, do you want a national mental health care program? And they'll say, not really. We want an ease of access to mental health care, which doesn't really solve the issue, because these are usually people who don't have mental health care, period, and they probably can't pay for it or won't want to pay for it. What is this? Confirmed victims of the Texas... 18 young children, 1 teacher, 10-year-old girl, critical, 10-year-old girl, stable, 66-year-old woman, critical, 2 adults, both critical. Number of injured at the hospital still unknown. Jesus. But what I'm trying to get at is, I think it's not a one-tier solution of, hey, let's just take all the guns away, because that's never going to happen. Because America is unique in its gun culture. Very unique. There's other countries that have something kind of like it, like with hunting cultures and stuff like that, but America's unique. And so we can't just take all the guns away, because if you wanted to stop him from doing shootings, one solution is just either take all the guns away, but you can't do that. And so you have to put in reasonable gun control measures as one pillar of this plan, and better mental health care services. A nationalized mental health care service of some sort. Not national, but a national service where anyone can get mental health care free of service. That's what I would be in favor of, or at least heavily subsidized. How about keeping guns in central depots? If you own a gun, you become legally obliged to not have it in your house. You want to use it, go pick it up. I think that's a terrible idea. That will never get passed. And I also don't think it will really, it would be much easier to just pass a law saying you have to have a gun in the gun safe, right? Because then, the whole point of guns, right, in American gun culture, there's, a few reasons. There's, hunting, a bunch of different things. One of the reasons is, distrust from federal authority, distrust of government. But then you say the government is the one who controls the supply of guns. And not to mention, then the other purpose, when it comes to things like home defense, it removes that as well. So, then it just becomes, a shooting range. That's all guns become at that point. And then it kind of, defeats the whole purpose of American gun culture at this point. Thoughts on extra security measures at schools? They shouldn't really need to be a thing, but, I'm not a... I think in the odds of you getting killed in a school shooting are so low that I don't like them.
Immoral, morally corrupt, bankrupt man.
Night janitor, tier 1. But the fear instituted through these school shootings, I think a lot of times these are some things can be done to make people feel safer, because they're not going to feel safe. I'm fine with to a certain extent. But when it comes to things like bulletproof backpacks, every time you take a bulletproof backpack to school and you remember this is a bulletproof backpack, what you're doing is you're scaring your child. You're terrifying them. And that type of trauma is not going to institute a safe and it's not going to institute a good learning environment, because they're going to be thinking about not getting shot, not thinking about, hey, I want to learn.